Hey people, I want to remind you, if you like the music in the break, go check out @WillRMonahan on Instagram and Twitter. The song you're hearing is his newest single. It's coming out today. That's right. If you're hearing this, the song is out. It's on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, Google Play, Pandora, YouTube, Deezer, and more. Now, you want to talk about serial killers?
No, you stupid idiot.
Oh my god!
All right, welcome everybody to episode 82 of 1 Million of the Serial Chillers podcast from the Super Network studio. I am here with Hella Greg in the new Super Network bunker across the internet. How goes it? Hella Greg.
I'm good, man. I am across the internet, but like we said, realistically about 40 to 60 feet below you.
You know, I like the location of the new one. I just don't like that you had to build the elevator in our studio.
It's not the fear of the government or aliens or anything like that that keeps me in a bunker either. It's social anxiety.
Perfect. That's a good reason to live far underground. Make sure you guys go follow us on everything. Facebook is Serial Chillers Podcast. The Facebook group is the same. So is the Instagram. The Twitter is Chillers Podcast because they won't let us have long names, fuckers. Email address is serialchillerspodcast. Fucking Twitter. Who tweets? Serialchillerspodcast@gmail.com. You can call or text the voicemail line 1-805-666-2513. T-shirts are on serialchillerspodcast.threadless.com. You can go to serialchillerspodcast.com for stickers or the Super Network. It goes to the same place now. Rate and review us on everything, please. And if you'd like to give us fucking money, patreon.com/serialchillerspodcast. And also don't forget to check out Super Simpsons Show. We be doing that shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay. So
That was very convincing.
Yes, I know what you were saying.
Very pumped up right there.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I'm sure about really nothing. So when I am sure about something, I gotta chime in.
It's that show exists.
Yes.
He's sure about it for sure.
Yes.
So I've got two returning guests here. One of them you guys will have heard last week. They work better as a duo, I've been told. Welcome. Relatively new favorites to the show. They're here and ready to get into it once more. Let's battle Bree and Lindsay. Welcome back, you guys.
Hello.
Hi.
Is it going to be a battle? You fucking really wanted to beat Paul last week. Like,
Yeah.
you really wanted to beat him. Do you feel that
I got
same...
like kind of shitty drunk at the end though. And
He threw that Hail Mary and who couldn't drink? You know what I mean? Like
well,
that's...
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I just got lazy and
Do you feel that
drunk
same
and-
competitive energy against Bree when you're here? Or are you just like, I'm just here doing true
No,
crime
I'm
shit
just
with
like
my
chilling
homie?
with my bud
Yeah, I
and we're
feel
just
like
having a
we're
good time.
Compadres over here.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, so you don't want to rip
Not
Lindsay's
to
head off
say
either.
that I don't want to fucking destroy her after losing 2 in a row, but that's besides the point.
I was just going to ask because we don't keep track of that, what the record was, but it
yeah,
looks
no,
like...
I am 0-2.
So last
pretty
week was your
fucking
first
mad about it.
loss?
Did
Did
well,
John beat you when you were on
John
a long
did
time
beat
ago?
me a long
Okay.
time ago, but I don't count that because I don't think that episode is on air anymore.
It is.
Is
just
it?
Sounds bad.
I gotta say, it takes a true friend to like come along when you're down after a loss and then just beat you again.
Yeah,
So-
I'm a little nervous. You know, I was trying to decide like, is it more nerve wracking to like have all these wins, or is it like more nerve wracking to like now I have a loss and now I'm like, fuck, dude, I really don't want to lose again.
The great part about this show is that it's nothing really. The mediocre part about the show is that nobody knows what is that nobody knows who the killer is going to be or what it's going to be. You know that it's going to be macabre, and you know that it's going to be dark, but nobody has like a. Some people have winning records, but nobody's like, holy shit, they've won every fucking time they've been here. They just know their shit. Because the people that know, like I said, you guys initially, there was a heavy hitter in line. I was like, nah, these ladies know way too fucking much for me to be bringing them anybody who's like even close to heavy hitter category.
Yeah.
This guy, statistically, heavy hitter. You may have not ever heard his name one time. It's just one of those stories. So
I'm pretty sure I did fairly well when I was a guest before I became whatever my final form is.
yeah, and humble too.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, put some respect on my
Humble
name.
brag.
Put some respect on my name. I do believe Greg did well. I did send him a lot of outlines though, so I'm just saying, early years are tainted. Asterisk. Yes. I wish we had a fucking stats keeper. Anyway,
I'm sure each of your contestants have their stats down.
All right. You guys know how the show works. Let me explain it for anybody that doesn't. Each week, I sit down with old friends, new friends, good friends, and bad friends to tell them the story of an infamous serial killer. Throughout the show, you guys can chime in on my story. If you've brought your own, that is true crime, dark, creepy, unsolved, or otherwise mysterious, please feel free to share it. Lastly, if you have questions about questions, make sure to ask questions because I cannot answer questions about questions if you never ask questions. Are there any questions?
No.
Greg, you know what? I don't think I ever asked you. Do you have any questions?
No. I mean, I have the outline. I got all the information I need.
Then welcome to and let's play the Serial Chillers podcast. Metal. Okay, you guys, are you fucking ready? Do you want to know? We've been sitting here for an hour and a half now. We could talk about who our killer is tonight.
Excited.
Tonight, we're going to talk about Carl Eugene Watts. No bells rang?
Nope.
Okay.
I can only think of one Watts, and it's probably not the Watts I want to talk about.
Chris Watts?
Yeah.
That's funny. You should say that because I thought about that. When I thought about his name, I was just going to give you his last name. Be like, are you guys so excited? And then
disappoint us.
Yeah, so that's why I didn't
Yeah.
do it. I didn't want to disappoint you.
Chris Watts, is he
Although-
the recent?
Okay, question number 1. In what year was Carl Eugene Watts born? Closest to the answer gets 250 points. If you somehow nail it, it is for 1,000. Carl Eugene Watts. What year? All right, Bree says 1942. Lindsay says 1968. Bree is going to get 250 points because Carl Eugene Watts is born November 7th, 1953.
Eugene. Carl. Gave it away. It's like, this motherfucker's old.
Eugene and Carl, those are the ones.
Well, 1968 is not young. Sorry, folks.
Sorry, Dad.
Take that.
I don't talk
Older
to my
generation.
dad, so it's sad.
I'm sorry.
I don't want
about
to talk about that. No, it's fine.
No, we don't have
You
to.
didn't mean to.
No, we don't
You didn't mean
have
to.
I mean, I don't know my real dad. I mean, I just got a decent stepdad. Moving on.
Therapy.
So he was born in Killeen, Texas, to Richard and Dorothy May. Richard was a private in the Army and was transferred to the Texas Bermuda Triangle. Greg, what do you know about it? Quick, go.
The Texas Bermuda Triangle?
Look it up. In 1942, before Carl was born, Killeen was selected to be the location for the Army's tank destroyer tactical and firing center. So this is going to be a pretty big place. So that's where his dad spends a lot of his early Army career. November 10th, 1953, just like a week after he was born, they moved back to Coalwood, West Virginia, where they were originally from. 3 days after his first birthday, his sister Sharon Yvonne was born. So keep the children close. Keep them close. That's pretty close. But you know what? You
It's
do
Okie
you.
twins.
You do you. 1955, he's now 2 years old. Look, I don't do this on purpose, okay? But Richard left Dorothy May and the kids forever for no apparent reason.
God damn it, Jesse.
As soon as I got to this part, I was like, I should just not put it in. And I was like, God damn it, it's so important to the story though. Like it needs to be in there. I was like, well, Lindsay will just talk some shit. And we'll move on. She won't really hate me. She'll just say some mean things. It's fine. You gotta fuck you in there, and then
Catchphrase. I believe it's fuck you.
Fuck you, Jesse.
Yeah, I was gonna say what's really great about that is you can put anybody's name at the end of it.
Yeah.
Universal catchphrase. Man, you're onto something here. Okay, so
All
yes.
brains, guys.
In 1955, Richard leaves Dorothy and the kids. Dorothy May and the children moved to Inkster, Michigan, Dorothy would then work as an art teacher and went to Colwood to visit her mother, Lula Mae Young, quite a bit. So she was like a young mother at this point. I want to say she was like 22 or 23. She's got 2 kids. She's just been left. She moves closer to her mother, but I think Colwood was something like 45 minutes away. So she was doing like quite a bit of commuting as well as going to school and working to raise the kids. Carl really liked visiting his grandmother. He acquired his nickname because his cousins had a like an accent, so they call him Coral. I think of Rick crying, telling Carl,
Rick Grimes.
Coral. Greg, you look like you wanted to say something.
No, I was gonna mention the Rick meme.
Yeah.
Beat me to it.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
I'll
That's fine.
I'll try to cut my wit back a little.
Yeah, dull yourself a little, please.
Slow it
Thank
down,
you, because
please.
me personally, I'm having a hard time.
So essentially, Carl liked the way that his cousins called him Coral, and like he just took that as his name. People would ask him his name, and he'd be like, "Oh, it's Coral." And so from now on, we're just going to refer to him as Coral. No, you know what? No, we're not. We're going to call him
No,
Carl.
he likes
Actually,
it,
yeah.
so do the opposite.
Fuck you,
Yeah, fuck you.
Carl. If I say Coral, it'll be by accident, and it'll be because I thought it was funny, not because you liked it. There, I had to get it out. Okay,
Get him.
So he even asked his mom if he can get it changed legally to Coral, and she was like, "No, you fucking idiot! Shut up and just
Like,
pronounce
fuck you,
it."
Carl.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, you stupid idiot. Oh, you want to change the name I gave you? How about fuck your face? What do you think of that?
It's just a pronunciation.
Yeah.
You don't need to go to the Social Security
He
office.
wanted to spell it Coral.
Like coral?
Yeah,
Like the color?
Coral. Yeah. Yeah, maybe he just really liked the ocean and thought like, coral is a great part of an ecosystem.
Does he think he's an Australian reef?
Yeah, I don't know. I obviously that's what he's gotten out.
He's
of it.
decaying at a rapid percent.
Yes, Greg.
Hashtag
Yes.
woke.
Environmentalism, one of Greg's very strong points.
That's one of my. I'm a big stickler for environmentalism.
Yeah, no, I got that from him for sure.
So
I throw batteries in the river.
and not like double A's either, just full car batteries.
Fuck you, fish.
So Carl's mom is not going to fucking change his name, but he does spend a lot of time with his grandma and his cousins, who all refer to him as Coral, so that's good enough for him. His grandmother would later remark that even at a young age, like they said around 5 or 6, he really liked to hunt jackrabbits and skin them with his grandfather.
Alive or dead?
Well, like they would kill them, they would hunt them, and then they'd skin them, but like he wanted to be the one skinning them. Like I was like... I've never skinned an animal. I have some family who hunts and shit, so I've been around people who are skinning animals. I am now into my 30s, and I'm still like, once you've got that process, I might eat some of it, but I'm definitely not going to be a part of any of that. This kid's 5, like, yeah, you grab right here, and you just rip it off. Like,
Grandpa's like, all right, Carl, you've skinned about 30 rabbits.
it only takes one for
Only
stew,
killed
Coral.
11, so this feels really familiar.
Jeff Dahmer killed rabbits as a kid. Lots of small animals. He hung out in his little shed with a bunch of.
Yeah, no, I know this specific instance of him going hunting with his grandpa and the grandma commenting on it later. That just feels really familiar.
Maybe for once you fucking read the outline.
No, that's not it.
So yeah, his grandmother, just for whatever reason, remembers this is it's a point of contention in his life to her. Is this motherfucker really liked to kill, and she's had other grandkids who didn't enjoy killing and maiming animals quite as much as he did.
He's getting the cats, you guys. There are issues now.
It's probably, escalation is real, y'all. So, in Inkster, he struggled in school, but tried very hard with his homework and earned decent grades. He was definitely not dealt the best hand when it came to natural intelligence, but by all reports, he worked very hard to overcome that. In 1961, at the age of 8, Coral and his sister Sharon got meningitis, an inflammation of the membrane that surrounds the brain and spinal cord and is caused by a viral infection. Question number 2. Coral suffered worse from the meningitis than his sister. Why? Was it because of A, the hospital accepted her and not him? B, it just did. C, they realize that his case, or they didn't realize how serious his case was until later. Or D, his mom took him to the hospital later than her. Why was Coral's worse? Hospital accepted her and not him. It just was. Oh, you guys are going to need to read these. Okay, you're both saying his mom took him to the hospital later than Sharon. She's playing a little favoritism. You guys think he's getting shit on?
Maybe.
That's what's going to cause our serial killer today?
Don't tell me you're changing your name. Fuck you.
So the hospital that their mother took them to, Detroit General Hospital, took Sharon but refused to see Coral.
Was it because he changed his name to Coral?
I don't know. I just don't know. That's the whole thing. This is probably one of the things that I tried to find an answer to the hardest, which means I spent like at least 3 minutes, 30 seconds researching this beyond. I really don't know. They're African American and it's 1961.
I didn't realize they were
But
black.
it's also,
Yeah, neither did I.
also Michigan.
Not that it
Not
matters.
like the deep South. You know, like I don't know.
Yeah.
But it is 1961. So that's really the only thing that I could think of is, or there were just overpacked and
Because they take the girl.
It doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
They would just not take either of them, I would think.
Yeah. If it was
But I'm
a
assuming
race
it's
issue.
because
Yeah.
he wanted his name to be Coral. That's my...
we could go with that
Going with that.
stupid ass Carl. But also he's just 8 right now and has meningitis, so I feel kind of fucking bad for him.
Yeah.
So I have no idea. My best guess is that it's 1961 and they're an African American family.
Yeah. Like, we have a quota,
Maybe.
guys.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Like and that's why I think that it was like, we can do her, but you're going to have to take him somewhere else. Like, we'll get you guys in and out with that. He got a horrible fever and had to go to Herman Kiefer Hospital for a while because he now had meningitis and polio. He had to be kept separate from other patients and had to get spinal taps. He missed the entire 3rd grade, and his attention span dropped and his grades suffered. Yeah, fucking getting spinal taps. I can't imagine, although funny movie, fun situation for an 8-year-old. He's going to have to redo the 3rd grade. So the meningitis and polio take him out enough in the 3rd grade to where he's going to have to do it all over. Coral complained that his memory often failed him after the meningitis case. In 1962, at the age of 9, Dorothy, his mother, got remarried to a man named Norman Caesar. Question number 3. How many children would Norman Caesar bring to the relationship? Open question here. Closest to the answer is going to get 250 points. 1,000 if you nail it. How many? Are you trying to read the answer from my eyeballs?
I'm getting a Brady Bunch vibe from this, but like for some reason I feel less wholesome. Mostly
Is
because
it
he just
because
grew up to
this-
be a serial
is
killer.
this the
Story.
skinning of the rabbits that threw
I'm
you
a
off?
lovely lady
Don't, we'll get pulled.
who had a kid who killed a bunch of fucking cats. Lindsay goes trick question and says, settle. He didn't bring any fucking kids. Bree says 7, shooting for the stars. Norman Caesar would bring 6 kids of his own to the relationship. Bree almost gets 1,000 points, but just 250 this time. So Bree is up 500 to nothing. Don't worry, Lindsay. Plenty of time. 13 questions to go. Yeah, Norman Caesar brings 6 kids. And then, so Dorothy May has 2. They have an additional 2. So we've already got Coral, who's got all these problems. You know, he's not highly intelligent. He struggles in school. He had meningitis and polio and got held back. He's complaining at 9 years old of memory issues. So she gets married and has a few more. So this kid is just lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
10 kids.
I have a question. I don't know if you would know this or not. Meningitis, can that cause you to have like long-term brain issues?
I would imagine
or damage.
that it totally could, because it fucking, like, I think it's a targeted virus that attacks the membrane around your spinal column and your brain. So I am not in any way, shape, or form able to answer that for you, but I would assume. I can't imagine anything with your
Throwing it
spine
out
and
there,
brain.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Seems like anything with your spine and
Yeah.
brain is just nothing to fuck with. So Coral's in a situation, but then he's 10. I have 2 kids, and I feel like sometimes I don't get enough attention to the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
10 fucking children. So yeah, there's that. He's
Yeah, but that's super easy when you don't give attention to any of them.
yeah, true. Which may have been happening. Coral just internalized, but every time he did get upset, it was like volatile. But they said that it wasn't. It was like a normal little kid. He would blow up every fucking now and again. It would be super gnarly tantrum. They'd throw his ass in a room and lock the door, and he'd cry it out. Like, I've done that shit plenty of times when I was a kid, and I still haven't killed anybody yet. But yeah, he was just, they never got any emotion out of him until they got all the emotion out of him. He was never abused. His dad left when he was 2, but before that, his mom, Dorothy May, said, nope, there was no abuse before that. There's no abuse after. There's nothing from grandparents. That doesn't mean there wasn't something that Coral never told anybody, but you think you get caught for murder, you're going to go ahead and just talk about how Uncle Weirdo touched your wee-wee that one time.
And your no-no.
Yeah, exactly.
You use it as your excuse or jumping off point or whatever.
Yeah. Just go Casey Anthony and say that your dad diddled you, and your dad's just like, wait.
That poor man.
What?
Yeah, what a bitch, right?
Yeah. So yeah, normal childhood. They said that he got his frustrations out through sports. He was an excellent at lots of sports. He won AA Golden Gloves boxing title. So which sport did he not play? Was it football, baseball, basketball, or track and field?
What did he not play?
One of these he did not play. So he plays lots of sports. I gave you boxing. That was one of them. So there are 4 additional sports here. He played 3 of these sports. One of them he did not. Track and field, basketball, baseball, football. Question number 4. Which one of those is not like the others? We know which one's not like the others. The one that doesn't have ball in the name. But, I'm asking for specifically the answer. Which one did Coral not play? Coral! Bree says he didn't play football. Lindsay says he doesn't play baseball. Coral was not a very big fan of basketball.
I know because of the brain damage. I thought football contact sport.
I thought football for sure. Yeah. Like that he was going to play it.
No, sure. I thought he wouldn't because of brain damage.
Oh, no. I thought it would cause him to have more brain damage to become a murderer.
Oh, snip, snap.
That was my thought process.
I thought like he'd have a good mom that'd be like, no, you're not going to fuck up your brain anymore.
She was dealing with 9 other kids.
She's like, fuck you, Coral.
So in 1968, he's 15 years old, and at this time he's reading at a 4th grade level. Ooh. He also just did not seem to care anymore. He just kind of given up on school. Some people believe that a lot of the issues he was now facing are due in large part to his meningitis. June 25th, 1969, still 15 years old, he had his first run-in with the law. He was a paper delivery boy in Detroit and attacked a 26-year-old woman named Joan Gave for no apparent reason. He went to deliver the paper, but instead of just delivering it, he knocked on the door. She answered, and he just punched her in the face, came inside and beat her up pretty good, in her foyer, walked out, and then just finished delivering the rest of his papers like nothing happened. He just for no reason, just whipped her goddamn ass.
She must have looked at him sideways or something.
4 days later, he was arrested at his home after she was able to identify him. Right. And he said when the police arrived, they asked him, why'd you do it? And he said, quote, I just felt like beating someone up.
At least he was
Good
honest.
reason.
Yeah. So he's taken to the Lafayette Mental Clinic, which forensic psychiatry center in Detroit. He claims there to have had sex at 14, but did not have much interest in girls after that. He was told that sex was wicked behavior. He was evaluated, and it was said that he experienced disturbing dreams of beating up women and even killing them, and he feels better after having those dreams. So, he would go to bed at night hoping to have those dreams because the days where he had those dreams, he woke up feeling better. I feel like he's more rested. He's got more...
Because he wasn't allowed to masturbate?
I think it was more... I don't even think that he wasn't allowed to masturbate. I think he just... he's in a mental facility.
I feel like there's a lot of masturbation.
I was just going to say, besides tying your hands behind your back and making sure you can't go anywhere, you could just rub it against something for a while. If if one were so inclined, there's pretty much no way to stop somebody from masturbating.
Especially in a mental
Yeah.
institution.
Have you never seen Silence of the Lambs?
Fucking
Remember
cuckoo-
Miggs?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I feel like in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, a ton of masturbation went on behind closed doors.
You're
or
not
in open
wrong.
doors.
Yeah.
On and off camera.
Exactly.
So
Just like guys standing by the craft services table.
Behind the director.
he's just at this facility, and they're like telling him, describe your dreams, tell us, what's going on. And he's just talking about the ones where he like dominates and fucking beats women. He's like, and those are the nights I wake up like the most rested. I love those dreams. I like those
I'm
are the
curious
ones
to
I
know
need.
like what triggered that. Like
Not
It doesn't
getting
seem
enough
like he-
attention, I'm sure, when he was little.
Yeah,
But
maybe
I mean,
having to
like,
like
is that-
internalize it always.
is that a traumatic enough event
I think so.
Well, and I think
to
different
cause
people.
you to like hate women?
I think
Like
trauma
as a
is
whole?
different
Mom,
for different people.
Probably.
I think depending on, for him, he just had his mom for the longest, for, at least a few very formative years, from like 2 to 6 or whatever. It was just them. And this guy comes in and brings 6 children. So not only like, here's your new dad, here's your 6 older siblings. Here, I mean, I'm not.
And
No
some brain
excuse,
damage to go with it.
Right. So
Yeah.
exactly. It's never an
Yeah.
excuse, but for
And
sure,
who knows what part of the brain was damaged? I mean, it could be his reasoning center or whatever.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
don't-
there's-
But was
don't
he
know.
skinning rabbits before the illness?
Mhm.
So, okay, that sets me back a little bit. I'm going to have to go back to my hypothesis now.
Yeah. So he's just got a fucking lot of shit going on, I think. That's his medicine, is beating and killing women in his dreams. So
And as a psychologist,
therapeutic.
when you hear that, like, how do you look at it and be like,
you're like, you just go like this and close your jacket a little bit and
you back out of the door, like,
yeah,
backwards?
the Homer Simpson through the bushes.
Pour yourself a stiff drink.
Yeah. So several weeks after, he still doesn't feel any remorse for attacking Joan Gave. It was said by a doctor that he was impulsive and had a passive-aggressive orientation to life and no evidence of psychosis. He was just a fucking shithead. Like, that's what the doctor's saying. Like, he's not sick. He's kind of a fucking dick. That's what I'm picking up here. He's a paranoid man who is struggling for control over homicidal impulses, and the doctor recommends outpatient treatment once they've got him kind of under control in the inpatient center.
Hold the fucking phone.
Thank you.
Outpatient.
Thank you.
He's struggling for control over homicidal impulses. I recommend outpatient treatment.
Dude, 1969, mental health is like, it's
And he was a
2019.
black
Mental health
man,
is not
I
at the
mean-
forefront of anything because this ding dong's a fucking doctor out there making choices like that with other people's lives.
It's 2019 and mental health isn't really taken
Yeah.
that seriously by a lot of fucking people. This is 50 fucking years ago. Yeah. No, I don't disagree with you. I think it's fucking
Yes.
crazy.
That's just that guy right there. I'm not going to say he's solely responsible for everything that happened after this, but I hope he had trouble sleeping for a while.
He did before he met Coral Watts.
That's
November
real.
7th, 1969, his 16th birthday, Coral's going to be released from Lafayette Mental Clinic. From 1969 to 1974, the ages of 16 to 21, he would go back to Lafayette Mental Clinic fewer than 10 times for his outpatient treatment. So over the next 5 years, he would visit less than 10 times for his treatment.
Perfect for a homicide.
During that time, he would get mixed up with drugs and withdrew from his own friends and got in trouble in school because of his behavior with girls. He
How old was he at this point?
These are between the ages of 16 and 21.
Okay. So he's still, his reasoning, impulse control is still developing.
Yeah, so he gives as little attention to school as possible, but he's like seriously creeping on girls. Like, he follows them around. He's a fucking, it's very cat and mouse to him. He thinks it's like it's part of the game to
Yeah.
him, is to really fucking get them like afraid and knowing that he's there.
So he could
and
sleep
follow-
better at night,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
I think you're exactly right. He began to get mixed in with drugs. He withdrew from friends. He got in trouble. He still played football though. That's what he dealt with, and that's how he said that he dealt with his abusive parents, although everyone in his family and anyone close to the family denies any type of abuse. So later he's saying, I got abused, and everybody's like, he fucking didn't. God damn it. Don't, no. What was that?
What if they're just gaslighting him? Like, what if they're just like, hey, like,
What if, like,
for his
13
childhood,
people
like,
are
we're just gonna beat
gaslighting
the
him?
fucking shit out of him, and then, you know, later on, like, we just keep our story tight. He was never fucking abused. Got that, mother? You know?
Yeah, by all accounts, they're like a really good, really normal family.
Yeah.
It's a big family, no
Oh, I'm
doubt,
sure. It
and
just-
not all the kids got the love, but it's not impossible. Nobody was there all the time. He
Yeah.
claims it, and everyone else is like, no, he's fucking dumb as shit. That never
Yeah.
fucking happened.
Just, I feel like I use this
I don't think it
example
happened. I don't want his family to feel disparaged.
Yeah.
a lot. My dad is like one of 11.
Okay.
None of them are serial killers.
Yep.
Or murderers
Yeah.
of
No.
any type.
No.
That you know of.
Chris's mom's one of 11 too, and they're all fairly well adapted. So.
They're kind of fucked up, but none of them have killed anyone.
but that's like every family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's
100%.
not. I mean, I'm one of
My
the
family's
two.
killed people, so don't lump me in with your non-killing families. But what?
Way
Like,
to
and the family member is me.
Welcome to the pit. It's just all.
Dates
See ya,
just
Greg.
come around.
I don't have enough energy for that shit.
That's horseshit. I paid extra for the live stream.
But I already have your credit card information. So
Damn you, dark web.
September 6th, 1972. He's now 18 years old. Zenaida Tomes is 20 and is found stabbed to death in Taylor, Michigan. At the time, they have no idea who Coral Watts is, but later this crime will match his MO and could be his first murder. Yeah, in 1973, he's 19 when he graduates. His mother helped him most of the way through it, and he received a scholarship to play football for Lane College in Tennessee. While at Lane College, question number 5, he was the starting running back until what happened to make him stop? Was it A, an arrest for assault? B, he fell back into drugs? C, his grades fell too low? Or D, a gruesome knee injury? Arrest for assault, got back into drugs, his grades were shitty, a gruesome knee injury. Starting running back at Lane College, you guys. Who knows? Maybe could have made it to the NFL. Because I'm not sure Marshawn can read. Just kidding. He's super fucking smart, actually. Okay, so they both say D, a gruesome knee injury. You guys think he kept it pretty straight? He just like actually got hurt out on the field?
My
That's what-
second thing was C. That was going to be my second answer.
The grades. You think
Because his brain.
he's kicked the drug problem?
Stupid.
I guess you're both getting points. That's right. He had a severe knee injury and was never able to play competitive football again. So 250 points for the each of you. Lindsay, you're on the board.
Yeet.
750 for Bree, 250 for Lindsay. Plenty of fucking time. So he's not going to continue school. Football's over. He drops out 3 months after and moves back to Detroit with his mother and stepfather for 6 months. Question number 6. Upon returning home, he got a job doing what? Was he A, a custodian, B, a movie theater worker, C, a sanitation worker, or D, a bus mechanic? Custodian, movie theater, sanitation, bus mechanic. Bree says a custodian. Lindsay says he worked in a movie theater. But when he moved back to Detroit, he worked for E&L Transport as a bus mechanic.
Really?
Yeah, it seems like he's doing pretty okay for a dude who
Yeah.
like reads at a 4th grade level.
That's why a mechanic. I'm like, that's. Well,
Pretty good. Pretty good for you. In 1974, he went to the Lafayette Mental Clinic for a checkup, and he said he was still suffering from some of the same problems he was suffering from, 5 years ago. It was most likely due to the fact that he never fucking followed up with his goddamn outpatient care. His psychological evaluation said that he might have problems with sexuality, and there were hints of possible homosexuality throughout his interviews with therapists. So a lot of his therapists thought he was struggling with his sexuality.
that's why I hated women.
I think
so
you
much.
can bring that back to a lot of killers
Yeah.
where they're struggling with being homosexual.
Well, and in 1974, being
Yeah.
an African American
yeah.
gay man, it was probably not a very
Yeah,
good,
not-
popular choice to like get invited places.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or get invited to some very specific places.
truth. Truth. July 2nd, 1974, he enrolls in college courses at Western Michigan University. He was accepted under the MLK grant program for minorities and was studying engineering and worked in the university cafeteria. While doing that, he would slack off pretty fucking hard in class and spend his time. They said he played an obsessive amount of ping pong.
What is
Like at the
Like Forrest Gump.
yeah, like he's like at the student union at the ping pong table. Like they're like, "Oh, Coral, class starts in 10." He's like, "Yeah." So I thought it
Coral,
funny to
stop
point out. Yeah, he's
playing.
just played a lot of fucking ping pong while he's at Western Michigan. It's just his goddamn game, you guys. During this time, he would often, while playing ping pong, talk about his intense hatred for females, even more than before. So he's just beginning to hate them more because his psychologist told him that he believes, like you might be struggling with the fact that you're homosexual.
To be honest, though, we are the worst.
Who serve? My serve? Clack. Aren't women the worst?
7 serving 9. Yeah, right. Coral would never be losing. So
Not with all his practice.
exactly. It sounds to me like he's just a fucking modern day incel. Coral Watts is just a
Yes.
black neckbeard playing ping pong at the student union at Western Michigan University.
Yes.
Like that's that. I
That's
can
him.
I can see it very clearly now. Actually, in fact, I can't see him as a black guy anymore. I had to see like a
Yeah.
fat dude in a fedora.
I can't picture him as a black guy either. Like I'm like, this
Yeah,
is such
I'm
a
having a
white
hard time.
guy, asshole.
To all of our incel neckbeard listeners out there, stop.
Fuck you.
October 11th, 1974, he's now 20 years old. He is caught stealing plywood from the Western Michigan University campus. Wait, right? You work there, you play ping pong there. He was probably stealing a piece of plywood
I
to
was
make
just
a ping pong
paddles.
table. Why the whole table?
Why would you steal plywood? Like, out of anything?
I thought of it. I went small and thought of paddles.
That's you make a
Just
bunch of
a ton
paddles.
of paddles.
Custom paddles. So, yeah, he's caught stealing the plywood, too. So the school's police arrested him, but they don't press charges. He's just really down to fuck up anything possibly positive for him whenever possible.
Given so many opportunities.
Yeah, he's real good. October 25th, 1974, Coral knocked on the door of Lenore Nizaki, Knizakky. I'm going with Nizaki.
Yeah.
It's pronounced Shishevsky.
So he probably not wrong. So Lenore Nizaki's apartment at 10:45 a.m. The door was still chained, and she opened the door, and Coral could see the chain holding him back, and he asks for Charles, which is the name of one of his 9 siblings. No one named Charles obviously lived in the apartment. She told him, like, you might need to check some of the neighbors' places. There's no Charles here. So Carl pretends to go around and look for Charles a little more, and he comes back to the door, and she asks, like, well, do you want to leave a note in case... I think she's just being nice. What the fuck's she going to do with the note?
Yeah.
So she unlocks the door, and when she undoes the chain, Carl just slips in, closes the door, throws the chain back on. He got on top of her and choked her until she passed out, and then he just left.
So he didn't kill her. Just
He did not, but he did
fucked her up.
yeah, tackle her, beat her up a little bit. 5 days later, October 30th, 1974, 19-year-old Gloria Steele was murdered. She was a mother and a student at Western Michigan University. She was stabbed 33 times in the chest with a wood carving tool and had a crushed windpipe. There were no witnesses except for a woman who saw a black man walk up the staircase, and he was walking around the apartment complex looking for a man named Charles. The police were not able to do an accurate investigation, however, because somebody moved the body and evidence around the crime scene. So their crime scene had been traipsed through before they ever got there. So they couldn't do any kind of real police work, even for 1974. On November 12th, Diane K. Williams, an apartment resident manager, noticed an African-American man wandering around the apartment complex who was looking for a man named Charles. Coral would then knock on her door and ask for Charles. She would get a piece of paper too to let him leave a note without opening it, and he would kick this fucking door in. So this is kind of his thing. He's just getting him
Yeah.
to just open the door. Oh, can I leave a note? And they turn around to get a piece of paper or whatever, and Coral gets in.
That's the technique.
Yes. So she takes a piece of paper, and Coral forces open the door and pushed Williams into her apartment. While the two were fighting, her phone began to ring, so she, I guess, slid over and knocks it off the wall and just starts screaming for help.
Good for her.
Yep. So once she does, on the other end was actually her husband's secretary, calling to make lunch plans for them. So it was someone she knew. Her husband's secretary's on the other line, and the man who attacked her took off running once he realized the phone had been taken off the hook. Williams stood up and looked out her window and saw the man getting into a vehicle. Question number 7. What kind of vehicle? Was it A, a Ford Maverick, B, a Chevy Nova, C, a Pontiac Grand Prix, or D, an AMC Gremlin?
I don't know what any of those cars are.
Lindsay says Gremlin. Bree says Chevy Nova. It was a Pontiac Grand Prix. Pontiac Grand Prix, guys. Pontiac Grand Prix. You don't know Pontiac Grand Prix? AMC Gremlin? There's a gremlin on the side of the bus. Oh, I just paid this off. It's only funny to Greg and I know. I'm sorry. So it's a tan Pontiac Grand Prix. Yeah. A lineup was put together, and Williams and Nizaki are able to identify Coral. So these two women are attacked in just a couple of days of one another. They're both very similar attacks, very similar looking men, very similar looking car. They put together a lineup of a few different people they believe it might be. He's got a little bit of a history, Mr. Watts. He's been in and out of some facilities.
He has an MO established.
Yes, exactly that. So they're able to identify Coral. On November 16th, 1974, he's arrested and charged with assault and battery for both cases. On November 18th, 1974, he admitted that he was in the area where Gloria lived the day that she died, but said that he did not kill her. And so they're like, all right, cool. You just beat the shit out of these two, though, right? All right, as long as you're good with that. December 6th, 1974, Coral was interviewed by 9th District Court investigator Freemeyer. Coral admitted to attacking about 15 other young women. Most of the women were thin, attractive, and white, according to Coral. After a while, he demanded a lawyer, and the person to represent him was this dude named Plashik.
Just side note. Okay, so you said there were white women. The women that were actually attacked, were they also white women?
These two that are been attacked and one that has been murdered so far, yes.
Okay.
Yes. It won't be strictly white women, but it's mostly white women, for sure.
Okay.
Coral decided that he wanted to admit himself into the Kalamazoo Mental Hospital before he was charged with any crimes. So he's got a lawyer, and his lawyer's like, maybe we get ourselves and get some mental help, and it'll make us look a little better, I think. Also, we might be able to say we're fucking crazy. December 12th, Detroit police had a search warrant for Watts' home where they found a wooden carving tool, but nothing to tie him to Gloria's murder. On December 18th, Watts had to stay in jail for 45 days or go to the Kalamazoo Mental Hospital for an additional 45. Watts chose to stay in the hospital. So, yeah, right? He had already admitted himself there prior to going to jail for being charged for this. So why the fuck wouldn't you just stay where you're already at? Plus, it's a hospital. Not a, pound me in the A prison. So
Not one of those.
yeah, due to some, no, let's skip over that. Watts liked staying in the hospital very much. They said that while he was there, he would shoot pool and play basketball. Many doctors checked out Carl and said that he does not believe in God, ESP, and that he hasn't heard any voices and didn't have any delusions. And there weren't any psychotic symptoms noticed, and mental faculties were all intact. So they're just saying, this motherfucker's normal. He just comes here and shoots hoops every now and again.
I like that they lumped God in with ESP and hearing voices.
Yeah.
They're like, do you hear voices? Are you schizophrenic? Can you read minds? Do you believe in God? You do? Is he here now?
The answer is no to everything you asked. So January 8th, 1975, Coral would try to kill himself or try to make doctors think he wanted to kill himself. Question number 8. How did he attempt suicide? Did he save pills, making the rounds at the hospital and OD on them? Did he try to hang himself? Did he try to cut his wrists? or jump from a walkway on the 3rd floor. 3 floors ain't a lot. Aim for the head. Saved his pills and OD'd. Hanging, cut wrists, jumped from a walkway on the 3rd floor. Double hangings. Double points. 250 points for each of you because,
We're pretty in sync over here.
We're super smart.
He tried to hang himself. He used a laundry bag cord and hung himself. When a nurse saw him and cut him down, she noticed that he didn't really look like he was fully committed to the hang, nor was he unconscious at the time.
He was
Be
just
that
kind of
guy,
like
too, and
just,
her
like,
be
tied.
like, you know what? I don't think you really tried hard enough.
Yeah.
You know?
Maybe I just pull on your legs a little.
I'm a little disappointed. I'm a little disappointed.
Yeah.
He just had it like tied around his neck, like
He's like, guys, help
to the
me.
bed rail.
They said that the hospital didn't take him very seriously either because the next day he was released and worked outside the hospital he would sweep up a local church. That was like something that they did.
That still seems like they may have failed him, releasing him the next day. Like,
That's what I was gonna say. Like, they give him so many chances.
Well, he was released from the hospital from the hanging. He was still with the Kalamazoo Mental Hospital. He was being work released to go work in a local church.
The
sweeping
fact
up.
that he was allowed out of sight, though, even you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, not in
Even if it was not
lockdown.
like a credible suicide attempt,
think
it was
just
still like
keep an eye
something
on
he
the
should have
guy.
been under observation for.
Yeah.
They did for one day. June of 1975, he's been out for about a month, and he's going to be admitted to the Center for Forensic Psychiatry in Michigan. So he's not doing well. A doctor, well, he is doing well. He's really good at faking it seems like. A Dr. Benedict said that Watts usually feels good after he either has dreams of, thinks of, or actually beats up women. This continues to be a common happening for him. The doctor didn't think that he had any mental illnesses, and he was competent to stand trial if need be. She also said that he is dangerous, and the potential for recidivism is very high. So she's like, yeah, he's going to get out, and he's just going to fucking do all of this some more. Let's just try to find a way to keep him here. So, yeah, this woman, I think, brought it down to the cleanest, best breakdown of him is like, look, he has no real issues. He doesn't need to be here, but he doesn't need to be out there either. Yeah. Like, we need to find a way to...
He's crazy, but he's not here crazy.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So December 19th, 1975, his trial for the assault and battery of Nizaki and Williams would begin. He's going to plead no contest when the county and go into the county jail for 1 year. So he spends time in the mental facility. He gets his charges finally. They send him to the county jail for 1 year, which I'm sure after being in the mental facility was no fucking walk in the park. 8 months later, August 24th, 1976, he's released from the jail and returns to Inkster, Michigan to move in with his mother and stepfather. Coral would then hook up with a childhood friend named Dolores Howard and, in just a few weeks, get her pregnant. From June to October of 1978... about 5 attacks on women in Detroit with about the same MO every single time took place. The man would break into women's homes, and the women would wake up to the man standing over them with his hands on their mouths, breasts, or genitalia. They believe that Coral Watts may have been responsible for all 5 of these attacks.
He doesn't even get creative. He just...
This ends up being one of those kind of unfulfilling ones, too, where you're like, did he just serial confess to a bunch of shit? Or are there just a bunch of crimes that they just weren't able to fucking give anybody any closure to? Coral Watts, everybody. Coral. So, February 3rd of 1979, he has a daughter with Dolores Howard and names her Nikisha Watts. They had a seemingly healthy relationship for some time, but he was really a fucking deadbeat dad, and he wouldn't claim Nikisha as his own and eventually takes off. Later, Dolores filed a claim to get $70 a week from Coral for child support. On August 17th, 1979, Coral married a woman named Valeria Goodwill, and they moved in together on Parker Street in Detroit. Coral's mom did not like Valeria very much, and eventually Valeria did not like Coral very much. She said that he had these weird nightmares and would thrash around in his sleep like he was fighting someone.
Red flag.
Guess who he's fighting?
Yeah. She said that his nightmares were like super vivid for even her. Like she could essentially see, like figure out what was going on. He would fall out of bed and get back in without ever waking up. If Valeria touched him while he was waking up, he would jump.
Go back to that last one. That's not that unusual.
Yeah, for you, fucking dead sleeper.
No.
She also said that if she like touched him to wake him up, he would do the like he had the prison jerk, like raise a fist and like, yeah, he was very like when she tried to help, exactly, it was like almost dangerous for her. Very soon after they get married, he begins acting very strangely. He would constantly rearrange the furniture, cut up houseplants with kitchen knives, cut candles and melt them into the table. He would dump garbage all over the floors and not pick it up. And after they would have sex or any type of intimate encounter, he would just get up and leave for hours at a time.
I'm curious to know like what the trigger is about like having a wife or being married that like causes him to kind of like go off the rails.
Because he wants to have a wiener.
It also kind of seems like
right?
sex with a
Isn't he
lady.
gay?
Like his...
Well, just like living with a woman intimately, I don't know.
Yeah, for sure when they had sex, he would just... she said for sometimes like 6 or 8 hours. Like he would get up after sex at midnight and he wouldn't be back till 6 a.m.
Or is it just that he's living with someone and they're kind of seeing this behavior happening all the time? So now someone's just like recognizing it.
Maybe that, because he lived in a house with fucking 14 people earlier, in his life or growing up. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I think he was gay. I think he was not happy with being with a woman.
I think that's what everybody was kind of thinking at this point.
Yeah. I could see that. She's just kind of like his mask.
Yeah.
He's trying to cover it up. And then, he feels weird after they have like a sexual encounter. So it's like, I gotta go. I feel
almost
gross.
feels like he was raped or something. Like, ugh.
She's starting to see weird shit in him. And yes, like you said, it's the first time like intimately living with someone. There's only one person observing his behavior. But I feel like they would have noticed if he was like chopping up the house plants, even if there's 12 kids or whatever, like melting candles in it or like dumping all the trash onto the floor and being like, that's where that goes now.
Dude, I gotta say, the mental image of him just like walking around the house with a knife and just like swinging it around.
Kind of feels like something 7-year-old me would do.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. And like the trash on the floor, just like making a mess like a dog, like just playing in it.
Or just like wanting attention. Like I feel like it's very, I think when you're at that many kids, like it probably is easy to go under the radar.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own thing going on, and all the kids have to look out for each other, I'm sure. And they're like, dude, fuck all these kids. I'm looking out for myself. I'm also like
curious if there was any like cause to believe that he was schizophrenic.
I mean, so far, all these psychologists are saying, like, no, there's nothing wrong with him.
Because
he's just
his behavior
it's
is
a lot of
in
impulse
line
control,
with that,
though.
Yeah, which
that's
might have something to do with the brain damage. That's what I get out of it, is
because, like, I've totally looked at, like, like a smooth surface and been like, oh, that'd be awesome. Like a nice smooth cake and be like, yeah, I want to cut that with a knife. You know what I mean? Like, be the cut that goes through the cake.
Yeah, you want to peel the sticky stuff off your laptop. Yeah.
Right.
I
so
did that,
it's...
and I so regret it.
Yeah, so like I feel like he's got that impulse that I want to, like, that's a nice big leaf on that house plant. I wonder what it would look like. I wonder how easy it would be to cut with a knife. Well, I got a knife right here, and so I'll just go do it. Or like melt
my
candle.
fickle fig.
That's a cute fluffy rabbit. I wonder what it would look like skinned.
What it would look like.
Right, but it's just impulse control. He just doesn't know that. Hey, man, like don't do that.
It took me a long time to grow that house plant. Don't cut it.
Well, they say like that's like children rare. They don't have that like part of their brain that lets them think about the future.
Even like 18-year-olds don't have impulse control or like ideas of consequences and what they really are.
Yeah, I thought I was pretty fucking smart at 18. Now I look back, I'm like, what a
we all
fucking
were.
goddamn idiot I was. Holy shit.
Don't let 31-year-old you tell you anything else.
I'm 32.
Oh, sorry, Jess.
It's okay. So September 21st, 1979, the headless body of Malak Haddad, who was 32, was found in Allen Park, Michigan. Her head was never recovered. October 8th, 1979, the body of Peggy Poshmara, who was 22, was found strangled in the front yard of her boyfriend's neighbor in Detroit. She was not sexually assaulted or robbed. On October 17th, 1979, Coral gets arrested again. Question number 9 for what? Is it assault, disorderly prowling, battery, or a B&E? Assault, disorderly prowling, battery, breaking, and entering. Bree says B&E. Lindsay says disorderly prowling. Coral was arrested on October 17th, 1979 for a charge of disorderly prowling outside a woman's house. The charges were, however, eventually dropped.
You know what I wrote first? Fucking prowling.
And you know what? I was almost going to say B&E.
Okay, Lindsay, you closed the gap. 750 Lindsay, 1,000 for Bree. It's anybody's game, guys. Anybody's fucking game. Halloween 1979, Jean Klein, who's 44, was found stabbed 13 times outside of her home in Grosse Pointe Farms, Michigan. She was not sexually assaulted or robbed. Some people thought her dead body was a Halloween prank and just walked right by it.
Like in Scream 2.
That's super smart, really.
So
Walking that one in. Just kidding.
I think Michael Myers like
So
originally.
I was just gonna say. So what you're saying is, if you're gonna kill somebody, do it on Halloween.
that'd make it good.
Maybe you
horror
just
movie.
make it your annual thing and like wear a jumpsuit with a mask.
a Bill
switch it
Shatner
up.
mask.
Yeah, exactly. A William Shatner mask painted white.
So, December 1st, 1979, Helen Dutcher, who was 36, of Ferndale, Michigan, was stabbed 12 times. Her murder was witnessed by a man named Joseph Foy in a neighboring neighborhood. So he's like in his backyard overlooking like this, I think it's like a dirt area between like some industrial buildings, and he like witnesses a murder. He calls the police quite a few times, and they pretty much like, all right, like, thanks for all your information. And they keep like pushing him off.
Wink, wink, nudge,
Yeah,
nudge.
yeah, exactly. They eventually send a sketch artist to his house, and he gives the description of an African-American man who looked a lot like Coral Watts. Apparently, like Foy and Watts, like Watts did the murder, walked back to his car, like locks eyes with Foy as he's walking and getting into his car and like drives away. And they're like staring at each other.
I can just imagine
murder.
being like, hey Barb, you want to come out here and see this? There's a fella in that dirt lot over there.
I think he just murdered a chick.
He's looking right at me.
I can see into his, no soul.
He doesn't
Yeah,
believe in that. That's how he got out of the hospital, they say.
exactly. So, Joseph Foy is like going to be following up on this. Like, he gave the sketch. He saw a woman killed. He said that he called police so much that at one point police told him to put it to bed because they were satisfied with how they had handled the case.
Detroit.
They're just
PD.
like, yeah, you know what? Fuck you, man.
Yeah, put it to bed. So let's take
How
a break.
many murders do we have to solve in one day?
Yeah, exactly. Detroit is fucked at this time too. Let's take a little break and come back, or I'll kill you.
The makeup on your face, it left me with a taste of regret on my lips, blood held between fingertips. I see you sitting in your solid room on this cold dark night. I see you sipping on that vodka. It's gonna make you feel alright. Getting high, yeah, you make me feel alive. Spinning records all the time. You could stay with me tonight. Getting high, yeah, you make me feel alive. Spinning records all the time. You could stay with me tonight. What you really wanna know about me? Can't you see I'm dripping like I'm fucking saucy? I just wanna get to know you. Girl, just let me show you. Just wanna be your go-to. Driving to the coast and I'm looking to my right. You're looking pretty good. I be rocking off white, yeah. Running through my mind like a track meet all night. Stacking all these hundreds to the motherfucking sky, yeah. What's the plan? Tell me what it do. I can't include myself if it ain't including you, oh man. Can you pour another cup, please? Turn the system up, please. Chilling out on Long Beach. Got this rollie in my hand, I've been smoking uncle's hand. One day you told me the strength of a man is measured in his heart. I drive back home and think of times when it was simpler from the start. Getting high, yeah, you make me feel alive. Spinning records all the time, you could stay with me tonight. Getting high, yeah, you make me feel alive. Spinning records all the time, you could stay with me tonight. Can you pour another cup, please? Turn the system up, please. Chilling out on Long Beach. I'll be driving to the bank now, moving hella dank now. Looks like I'm about to cash out.
Welcome back, everybody, to episode 82. We're laughing. We're having fun here. This is a podcast. We fucking do this thing, you guys.
We are laughing. We are friends.
We are friends.
We're
No,
not
doing a
irritated
podcast.
with anybody else.
No, we're not irritated. So, yeah, welcome back, everybody. Greg brought a story. He's got a challenge. He has told me that we need crayons. Specifically said crayons, too, right? You guys heard him. He didn't say, like, markers or anything. So, I don't, I think he wants...
Colors.
There's going to be some blending. That's what I feel like there's going to need to be here. So,
I feel like it's
I
going to
am
be
fucked.
open to interpretation, but I want you to have the widest use of the color palette possible.
there you go.
Well, we got.
And
a
I
lot
feel
of
like
fun
because you
places
have
and
kids,
urban
you've probably got
beach.
one of those 64 set crayon
That's
things.
exactly.
With a
I
sharpener
mean,
on the
there's
side.
like whatever's left in there. That is totally the 64 set. That's what's left of it. So
I like that it's in a Lunchables box.
yeah, because
That's
they
really
broke the
creative.
crayon box, so
No,
I
that's
put it.
creative.
No.
Yeah.
You mean they gave a toy design for kids in a little shitty cardboard box that doesn't hold up to anything?
But the box that their
What?
lunch comes in is actually pretty sturdy and it's held the crayons pretty well for.
I'm surprised.
Okay, so yeah, without further ado, Greg, take it away. Tell us what are you doing?
All right. So just before I kick all this off, I have a couple of things I need to like preface this with.
Okay.
First, are we all familiar with what astral projection is?
Kind of.
Kind of.
Shooting things into into space.
No. Well, no. No.
So what you're saying is no.
No.
Okay.
You wanted to say yes.
Astral
appreciate
projection
that.
or astral travel is a term used in esotericism to describe a willful out-of-body experience that assumes the existence of a soul or consciousness called an astral body that is separate from the physical body and capable of traveling outside throughout the universe. So
Like your soul
it can
is
pretty
a-
much
is a
go anywhere,
spaceship, man.
anytime. You just gotta like learn how to do it.
You gotta will it too.
Yeah. Now that we know what astral projection is, I have a little preface here. I just want to get this out of the way. Allegedly. So everything that falls after this is all allegedly.
Perfect.
All right. Here we go.
I am going to say at some point, I'm just going to say aliens because I don't want to get specific with species and stuff.
Which species would it mainly be pertaining to, though?
Why you gotta go there, Jesse?
Because I'm curious.
No,
it
I
makes a
wanna know
difference.
how
It makes
to.
a difference.
Now that I know there's a bunch of different
If you had to say-
I'll let
Why we gotta
you
go on
form
this
your
tangent?
opinion. I don't want there to be preconceived notions because there wasn't a mention of a specific species.
Okay. Because like
So-
because like if it were Nordics, I'm expecting a certain outcome that's much different than if it were tall grays. That's why to me
or if it were the reptilians.
for the Zeta Reticuli.
Exactly. So now that we've got that,
Zeta Reticuli.
yeah. Now that we've got all that out of the way, everything that I'm going to say from here on out is 100% fact. Some of this
believe you.
information came from YouTube. Came from YouTube videos with almost zero production value.
That's where all the real facts come from, though.
Some of them came from what I'm just going to say is the internet. So-
What you're gonna say.
Actually, a large chunk of this came from the CIA library. So,
Like you went there?
it's all online now. Yeah, it's 2006, dude. We are making progress.
Technology.
But I digress. On May 22nd, 1984, at 10:09 a.m., the CIA began a session of remote viewing, which is astral projecting. They were known to do this dating back into the early establishment of the agency. MK Ultra, anybody? Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
I digress. The CIA monitor gave the subject an envelope with an approximate time and location on a 3x5 note card. You guys ready for what the note card said? Not all at once. It said the planet Mars, time of interest, approximately 1 million years BC. Now, personally, for me, this is a point of contention. Does that imply that in all of space and time, they observe 1 million BC the same way we do? Or is it just like a point of reference for this guy to know how far back to go in space and time?
It's like when aliens in movies, they're like, are you speaking English? He's like, no, I'm just speaking something that you will hear that'll comfort you.
Right. I'm thinking it's just like a point of reference for this guy to jump off of. So like he knows how far back he has to go.
I said after the dinosaurs. Do you know how much time was after the dinosaurs?
That's like half of all time. Once again, I digress. The subject begins their journey. They give him some coordinates to start at 40.89 degrees north, 9.55 degrees west. Takes about 10 minutes for him to like kind of key in on where he's at. And then he says that he sees a pyramid form sitting in a depressed flat area. A lot of what he sees is a pretty bleak dystopia, the after effects of quote unquote a geologic problem. He says the monitor says, move closer, take a look around. So he kind of does, and he's pretty much what he says is that it's just all burned out. He said everything's a wasteland. They asked him to travel further back before the geologic problem, so he starts going further back in time. He said it's really hard to see because the environment's so corrupted. Like he's having trouble seeing anything. Everything's fading in and out. He reported seeing large piles of dirt appearing and disappearing, like sand dunes changing, which takes a long time, but it happens. And then he said that there were a bunch of structures that he saw that were quote unquote megalithic. He reports seeing a shadow of people, very tall and thin, but it's just a shadow. He can't see the actual people themselves. They asked him if he can travel back further, but in the same location. He said it was breaking up like static on a line, but he can see the people. And he said they were wearing, quote, strange clothes. They asked him to stay in this time period, but move to another physical location. So he went to 46.45 north, 353.22 east. I noticed they stopped using degrees. They were just giving him numbers now, and he was just kind of free balling it.
He knew.
Yeah. He knew. He mentions large canyons so high that he thought he was originally in a cave, and that the walls of the canyon appear to be carved, but with no intricacies, like they were smoothed out. There weren't like any carvings or any like evidence of tools or anything like that. That they were just smoothed out like smooth. So they asked him to go to another location in the same point in time to 45.86 north, 354.1 east. The subject sees a very large obelisk. He reported seeing a Washington Monument overlay. The best I can tell with these overlays is that he can't quite figure out what it is that he's seeing.
It's almost like he's seeing like augmented reality in his visions.
Kind of like he can see something, but his brain can't comprehend it. It's not something that he knows, so it becomes something else. It looks like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this whole time, they like when he's struggling to describe stuff, they're asking him. They're like, don't think, just raw data. Give us the raw data. Give us what you see. Like, give us shapes. Give us colors. Give us something. So, because he starts off talking about the whole thing. Everything's yellow. It's like okra. And he's struggling. It took him 10 minutes to get that out. So,
yeah.
But yeah, he said he was having troubles making out what it was, so that it was probably close enough to the Washington Monument that he just went with that. They moved him again to 35.26 north, 213.24 east.
You guys keep track of those, right?
This is going to be important. The subject reports being in a circular basin with a mountain range all the way around. He said they were very, very, very large. In fact, he said the scale seems to be off. Everything is very big.
What year is it?
1984.
Ooh, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids has not come out yet.
Yeah, so but can you imagine being someplace and having the scale, everything just scale feel off, and like mountains are just monstrous high, and
well, I mean, like
being an ant.
Yeah,
like you said, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
What are these mountains for ants?
Yeah, it'd be insane. So, he said he was unable to locate anything other than, quote, a right angle corner to something. He didn't know what it was, but it was like a carved right angle corner that he saw. So they moved him again, 34.6 north, 213.09 east. The subject reports seeing, quote, a cluster of squares up and down. It's like you want to make them square anyway. So what he's seeing isn't actually squares, but they look like squares, I guess.
Huh. It's just like what you were saying before. Like, it's something that is like almost unfathomable to him. So the closest thing he has to relate is a square.
Yeah, and he said they were like to the floor and as high up as it could go, and as far as it went in directions, and they were like stacked squares is what they look like. He said they were very white, or that they reflected light. And then he said, and the sun is weird. I mean, like, they have all the ellipses in the transcript and everything, so all the ... dots where he's going, because I mean, think about it, this guy's over 1 million years ago in time on a foreign planet looking at stuff.
Yeah.
So they moved him
again.
Allegedly. I already covered that. They moved him again to 34.57 north, 212.22 east. Also, these numbers really aren't important. It's just like, if you look at the coordinates and like if you're paying attention, they're not moving him in like huge jumps. Like, there is a couple of huge jumps, but they're mostly like having him cruise around and check stuff out, which to me seems like they've got him sightseeing. You know what I mean? Like, they have an idea that there's things in these areas and they want him to go check them out and see if that actually checks out. And as I'll keep going, you know, you'll kind of get more of a feel for it. But when they move him, he said there's something that he, quote, can't perceive, like a radiating pattern of some kind, like roads dug into valleys, real neat channels cut. They're very deep. And then the monitor said that he was getting what he called electrically maybe a little bit nulled. And I don't know what the fuck that means, so I don't know.
It's just nulled a little by electrically.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they had him do some exercises to regain focus. And then they moved him again to 15 degrees north, 198 degrees east. And then he said he saw carved channels like an aqueduct, as well as, quote, pointed tops of something on the horizon. A circus, maybe.
My first thought.
And then he said, quote, the horizon looks funny and weird. It's like, different. Misty, like it's really far away. Very vague. End quote.
You're like, yes, it was very vague. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like this would be, can you imagine being the guy that's got to sit there and, like, I don't know, I'm assuming dose this guy with a fuck ton of LSD and then just be like, okay, now go 1 million years ago.
Hey, you know our planet.
Now go to Mars.
Yeah, go off it.
Yeah, like, well, I mean, so anyway, they move him again, 80 degrees south, 64 degrees east. They're back to using degrees, by the way. The subject reported seeing pyramids, but, quote, can't tell if it's an overlay or not because they're different. He said that they're
what?
Than a regular pyramid.
Ah, fair enough.
Than the human pyramids we have here on Earth that definitely weren't built by aliens. Notice I said aliens because I'm not going to get specific. I said I was going to do it, and I did it there.
Proud of you.
So they asked him. They were asking him questions about like what's he seeing around him. And, I glazed over a lot of it, but for the sake of brevity. But he said that they're huge inside and out, and he said that they're basically shelters from a storm, and that's what they're designed for. They asked him to go inside one, and he says they're stripped of any kind of furnishings or anything. He said it's like they're functional for, quote, sleeping. No, that's not a good word. Hibernations, some form. I can't get raw, real inputs. Storms, savage storm, and sleeping through storms, end quote.
Huh.
So it seems like he found like giant alien bomb shelters.
Okay.
So the monitor asked him to inquire about. He inquired about the ones who sleep through storms. Tell us about the ones who sleep through the storms. And he said, very tall again, very large people, but they're thin. They look like they're thin because of their height, and they dress like in, oh hell, it's like a real light silk, but it's not a flowing type. It's cut to fit. So he's describing
fashionable, you guys. It's fucking
It's like, it sounds
What is he
comfortable.
describing?
aliens attire. Greg's not getting specific about the aliens. So.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you was.
But it does sound like craft work, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sounds comfortable.
A little bit.
The new Martian Fall 2019 line.
Sounds like a nice robe you could use.
So I believe this is like
pattern.
1 million BC
Oh,
line.
sorry.
Egyptian
So they
cotton.
ask him they ask him to move closer and try to communicate with them. And the fucking madman did it. He walked right up to one and talked to him.
Blort, blort, bleeborb. What's up with you, man?
At this point, I mean, why the fuck not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've gone this
Oh,
far.
we are not done.
Can your soul be abducted?
So, I don't think so. Your soul doesn't have a butt, so like it they have no interest, is my understanding. So he was asking the quote unquote person in front of him all about himself, and he said that they were ancient people and that they were dying, but he said that they were, quote, very philosophical about it. He said they were looking for a way out, a way to survive, but just can't. They're waiting for something to come, someone with an answer, something to return. He said their environment's so corrupt and failing rapidly, and a group went somewhere far away to find a new place to live. So this is where it gets kind of fucky. This is where the story gets a little weird.
This is where it gets weird.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the subject asks about the cause of the corruption. And when the monitor asks him to describe what he sees, the subject says, question number 10, an artistic challenge. I'm going to tell you what this guy said he saw, and I want your best interpretation of it.
Ooh.
Oh, there you
Fuck.
Yeah. So this is what he said he saw. I'm going to do and I have it verbatim here. He said, a picture of like a, oh hell, it's almost a warp in a, oh God, this is difficult. The raw data. Oh, I get a globe. It's like a globe that goes through a comet's tail or through a river of something, but it's all very cosmic. It's like space pictures. End quote.
I think I've got it.
Can't... Son of a bitch.
You gonna finish telling your story and take a look at their drawings at the end?
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys just work on these.
That should be easy enough to draw. A globe going through a comet's tail, or it's through a river of something. It's all very cosmic. It's like space pictures.
All right, we'll give you guys a minute or two here.
Yeah, and
That's fucked.
I'll set the scene for the rest of it. So they ask the subject and the individual where he is and how he can help. So the individual, like the Martian that he's talking to, he said that they perceive the subject as, quote, just a hallucination, like a fever dream, is what he said. He compared it to a fever dream. And then so he asked how he could help. What can I do to help since I'm here? And they said that nothing can be done. Just wait. And then he asked about where the others went. And what the subject described was metal and looked like the inside of a big boat. He said it had very rounded walls and shiny metal. and he was encouraged to go along with them on their journey. So he, stayed in the boat, the ship, whatever it was, and went wherever they went. And what he saw was, quote, an impression of a really crazy place with volcanoes and gas pockets and strange plants. Very volatile place. It's much like going from the frying pan into the fire. Difference is there seems to be a lot of vegetation here, while the other place did not have it, and a different kind of storm. End quote. And after that, I think they decided that he pretty much had enough. And so they did the whole return to 1984, May 22nd, return to my voice, follow my voice back. And that's where the interview ends. So that came from a document from the CIA. That's like some of the shit that they released that they did. That's tax dollars at work, buddy.
Yeah, man. Why not anymore?
Not anymore. I told you, it's 2006 and this shit's going strong.
Imagine what it'd be like in 2019.
So yeah, that's it. That's where
Okay.
that's where it
Fuck
ends.
yeah.
Like I said, it
Let
sounds
them-
like they had intel that there were these locations, and that they needed to go and check them out. They were just having him sightsee. Go here, now go here. What do you see? Is our intel right?
And
So,
then
I don't know.
maybe what he was seeing was people escaping Mars to come to Earth.
Oh, that thought crossed my mind, pal. That thought crossed my mind.
Oh, don't you worry about that.
Oh yeah, buddy. So yeah, that's all I got. If you guys still need time, that's cool. We can continue.
All right, we'll skip. Yeah, we'll go into Coral Watts a little bit. Let you guys finish up. We'll judge these near or towards the end for dramatic effect. So
Build up.
yeah, Coral Watts. Thank you, Greg. That's pretty interesting. I like astral projection. Like I like the. I kind of think it's fucky, but it's a.
So you're saying you don't think this guy went to 1 million years ago on Mars?
I have a hard time with that, but I wasn't.
I don't know,
there.
dude.
I don't know either, dude.
CIA's involved in it. I mean, it's got to be above board and on the level.
True.
It's got to be above board and on the level with the agency in there.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know that necessarily makes me feel more inclined to believe it. So let's jump back into this piece of shit. So you guys remember Dolores Howard? He had a baby with her. He left her. She was seeking $70 a week from him for child support.
How dare she?
Well, on January 25th, 1980, a judge ruled that Coral was the father of Dolores' baby, and he had to pay child support, but only $40 a week. So,
Good.
yeah, that's baby raising money. You want enough for some food sometimes? So,
Once
yeah,
in a while.
she was trying to get $70 a week from Coral. The judge makes him pay $40 a week. She found out during this court trial and by reading a newspaper that Coral had remarried another woman, Valeria.
Wow.
Yes, and this is right about when Valeria starts to get even more freaked out because he never told her about Dolores and the very legitimate child that he had.
The illegitimate child.
Right, exactly. So on March 10th, 1980, the body of Hazel Connor, who was 23, was found in her boyfriend's Detroit driveway, tied to a chain link fence with her belt around her neck. She was not raped or robbed. On March 31st, 1980, the body of Denise Dunmore, who was 26, is found strangled in a Detroit parking lot. She neither was raped or robbed. 4/20, 1980, the body of Shirley Small, who was 17, was found on a sidewalk 70 feet away from her family's Ann Arbor, Michigan home. She bled to death by 2 stab wounds to her heart.
Yikes.
She had 6 deep slices on her face, and she was neither sexually assaulted or robbed. So, if these are all Coral, which they believe they are, it just goes a little farther into his MO of, like, I don't need, it's not about
Yeah.
sex. It's about,
Because he's gay.
yeah, it's about fucking beating the
Slashing
shit
up
out of
women.
you. Yeah, exactly. So, May of 1980, Valeria Goodwill would file for divorce from Coral Watts. Fucking finally. May 31st, 1980, Linda Monteiro was 27 and found strangled outside her Detroit home. Not sexually assaulted, not robbed. July 13th, 1980, Linda Richmond was 26 and found dead 30 feet from her Ann Arbor, Michigan apartment. She was stabbed 28 times in her left breast with what they believed was a screwdriver. She was not sexually assaulted or robbed. The pattern is...
Continue.
Yes, it's striking. July 31st, 1980, Lily Marlene Dunn is 28. She's an aspiring model and is abducted from her Southgate, Michigan driveway and dragged into Coral's car. Later that day, a 22-year-old woman, Kendra Towitz, was walking home when she was grabbed from behind by a man, and he slashed her throat. She would luckily survive. The United States Customs authorities got a picture of Coral's car crossing the border of where the crime was shortly committed. So right before the crime was committed. So they have a photo of his car. So they're like, I feel like they're constantly closing in on him, but they're never
but they
quite,
can never,
yes.
close in
They're
on him.
always getting closer, but somehow getting farther away.
That's what's crazy, that he keeps slipping through the cracks, because nowadays, like, a black guy can't even have a barbecue without getting harassed. And this guy's fucking killing people left and right.
He's literally like walking up, slashing throats, and walking away. September 14th, 1980, Rebecca Greer Huff is 20 and found dead outside of her Ann Arbor, Michigan apartment. She was stabbed 54 times with what was believed to be a screwdriver. The Ann Arbor Press noticed that all of the murders had a few things in common, which would lead to a nickname. Question number 11. What was that nickname? Was it A, the Houston Strangler, B, the Screwdriver Stabber, C, the Sunday Morning Slasher, or D, the Broken Heart Killer? Houston Strangler, Screwdriver Stabber, Sunday Morning Slasher, the Broken Heart Killer. Okay, Bree says the Sunday Morning Slasher. Lindsay says the Houston Strangler. C, the Sunday Morning Slasher, is the correct answer. What an interesting little... It sounds like almost... eloquent. The Sunday Morning Slasher. Yes, have you seen him?
I felt like he's such a dick. He's gonna get off with a good name.
The Sunday Morning Slasher.
Yeah.
Yes. It costs you your life. So, Bree's got 1,500 points. Lindsay has... Wait, is it 1,250? Sorry. 1,250 to 750. Still plenty of questions to go. I wrote that into 10, so we're just going to skip over how these go on there. Yes. So he is known as a Sunday Morning Slasher. Most of his more famous crimes were all committed at very early hours of Sunday mornings. They were all white women outside their apartments, and they were all killed Sunday morning around 4 a.m. And so people started to call the murderer the Sunday Morning Slasher. On October 6th, 1980, a 20-year-old woman was attacked and stabbed, but luckily survived. She had deep cuts on her face with one severed jugular vein, and she ended up having some paralyzed muscles, weak muscles, and could barely eat or move her head, and her arms barely went over her head. So that's a lot of damage from some stabbing and slashings. Not to mention the mental damage that, would probably come from an attack like this. On November 1st, 1980, 30-year-old woman was walking to her home after a Halloween party and noticed a man with a hooded sweatshirt, and she kept an eye on him. As soon as she took out her keychain, he knelt down to tie a shoe, then came right after her. She screamed at the top of her lungs and ran to her front door. The man turned and ran the other way because he was startled by her reaction. She pointed out Coral Watts from a photographic lineup, but she could not be 100% sure it was because it was not well lit outside, according to her.
Plus, she was coming home from a Halloween party, so she was probably well lit.
Yeah, that's very true. November 6th, 1980, the body of Lena J. Bennett, who is 63, is found hanging by a trench coat belt from a beam in her garage in Harper Woods, Michigan. This woman was sexually assaulted, unlike the others. They said that a wooden broomstick was inserted into her vaginally. November 15th, 1980, Paul Bunton of Ann Arbor homicide detective was told by 2 beat patrol officers that they had witnessed Watts stalking a young woman. That was the only time any authority figure would see Watts playing his game of cat and mouse. He would drive past her, stop a few blocks ahead, and when she would run a different direction, he would follow her again, and she'd try to hide. So he's literally like pulling up, letting her get near, flipping back around, driving up behind her, being
Total predator.
Yeah, and he's like getting off on it the whole time too.
What a creep.
The 2 police officers said that Watts almost went nuts when the girl got inside of her apartment because he had lost her. He thought that he was he thought he was a good cat. Not tonight. The police officers chased him down when he ran in front of them and caught up to his car with their police car. So they're chasing him down. He's like at this time on foot and running to his car. They're going to catch him at his vehicle and arrest him for driving under suspended license and expired tags. They search his vehicle and find a large dictionary with the words "Rebecca is a lover" scratched onto it. Rebecca was one of the women Rebecca Steele that he believed, or sorry, Rebecca Greer Huff, that they believed that he killed before. She was the one whose body was tied to the fence with a belt. So they think that he caught her coming home and stole some of the things she had in her hands, like a dictionary. Bunton became Watts' stalker at this point because he thinks this guy is out doing this a lot. So they're going to put a tail on him 24 hours a day.
Nice.
Coral Watts is constantly being watched. When he talked to Watts' former psychiatrist and former attorney, the psychiatrist told Bunton that he probably had found his killer. So, I don't know if that breaks patient doctor confidentiality or not, being that vague, but yeah,
If you're trying to save other people.
that's true.
I was gonna say, if you're like saving lives, I think it's okay.
They let him know.
We'll forgive you from your HIPAA violation.
So Watts attempted to attack a 60-year-old woman on November 20th, 1980. He grabbed her from behind and started choking her. As soon as she screamed, he ran. November 21st, 1980, a meeting was put together with Bunton, Sergeant James Arthur, Detroit Police Internal Affairs, and the State of Michigan Police Force, Windsor and Ontario authorities, and Homicide Squad 7, all attending. They all started watching Coral Watts' every move 24/7 in shifts. So every one of those was like some department of some type of law enforcement who was all agreed this motherfucker is crazy and we need to be watching him always right now because we think he's killed X amount of women, and we think if we're not watching him, he's going to kill X amount more.
Wait,
Because
the outpatient program didn't work?
Maybe if he had gone. So, Bunton would bring Watts in for questioning after essentially they had a search warrant to follow him from November 26th to January 29th. So they put a tracker on his vehicle just in case they ever did like lose him visibly, they'd be able to find him. And on the last day when it expired, they didn't catch him doing anything during this time. I'm pretty sure if someone's watching you 24/7, eventually you've got to fucking know someone's watching you, right? That's what I think.
I think you'd figure it out.
Greg's talked gang stalking a few times. Like I feel like that's very much what it is, and you would notice. So on the 29th, when the search warrant would expire, Bunton brings in Watts for questioning that lasted 5 hours, but Bunton got nothing out of Watts. Blood was taken from Watts, but it wouldn't connect him to any of the crimes. DNA, not very hot in 1981. March 10th, 1981, Bunton saw Coral inside of a courthouse talking on a payphone and went up to him and said, hey, let's talk, Coral. Coral said, nope, I'm not talking to the police anymore, and literally dropped the phone and ran. Yeah, Carl packed his bags and belongings, and at that point left Michigan and went to his grandmother's house in Texas. So he's kind of been bouncing around the country a little bit, but now we're in Tejas. We're nowhere near Michigan any longer. March 23rd, 1981, Watts applies for jobs at United Transport and got a job at Coastal Transport Company with the shift of 4 p.m. until midnight. At this point, when he got the job, he went back to Michigan to get his car and drive it back to Texas to begin his life there. On April 8th, 1981, Bunton mailed out a 19-page case history report on Watts to the Houston Police Department. Like, hey, this is the fucking guy that's in your neighborhood right now. Maybe keep an eye out. Here's what we've come up with. Yeah, he moved out of Michigan. We couldn't really charge him with anything. But just so you guys are aware.
There are about to be some dead bitches popping up in your area.
Yeah, so 41-year-old Detective Bostock went to Coral Watts' new job just to ask the superintendent about him because that's the one connection he's got in town right now. The superintendent wanted to fire him already, but Bostock asked him to keep him there so that they'd be able to track his movements in Houston. That would last for about a month and a half, and on June 1st, 1981, the superintendent would fire Watts, and Watts stated that he already had a job at J&R Trucking in Dallas and was like, doesn't fucking matter, bitch. And so he went to go work at his new job. The superintendent would then tell Detective Bostock, hey, look, he said he was going to work here, but he doesn't fucking work at this place anymore. Bostock then mailed the case history report to Dallas police. Watts, though, didn't move to Dallas. The wing of JR Trucking that he got a job at was actually going to be in Columbus, Texas. So in summer of 1981, he moved there and started his new job at Welltech. August 25th, 1981, Coral Watts was hired by the city of Houston's Metro bus system as a mechanic. So he moves to Eagle Lake, Texas, and he's now working for the city of Houston as a bus mechanic. So he's got a government job.
What?
How the fuck? Right. That's what I was thinking is how this is even possible.
I mean,
The system
working for
works.
the government is like terrible. It's a terrible job.
Yeah, but it
But
pays
how is
pretty
he
well.
allowed?
When you're employed.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, he's working for the man now. Yeah, so August 26th, Edith Ledette, who is 34, is found stabbed to death in Galveston, Texas. It's weird that all these women just keep dying where he lives near. September 5th, 1981, Coral Watts had been drinking and he was driving around and decided to follow a young woman that he saw. Watts followed Linda Tilley, who was 22, into her apartment and complex and attacked her. She tried to fight him off, and they both ended up falling into the pool, and he held her underwater until she drowned. Yes.
Ugh.
MO?
I just think this one got out of his control and was like, fuck it, I'm just going to hold her under here. And yeah. September 7th, Watts started his new job working for the city of Houston, but also would keep his job at Welltech under the table. So he's all over the fucking place. He got fired from one place, went to go work at another place, and while he's working there, gets the job at the city of Houston, but doesn't tell the other place that he's doing that. So he's like trying to work the 4 p.m. to midnight shift, but work for the city of Houston during the day. Yeah. So I guess while he was making that work, he would buy a new car. Also, September 10th, he went to the St. Paul's Temple Church of God in Christ. So he's starting to become, how do you get into the new neighborhood? You go to the church, you know? And he meets...
That's how I make friends in all my new neighborhoods.
Yep. By just going over there and going, hey, fuckers, hail Satan. He meets a woman named Sheila Williams. On September 13th, Susan Wolf, who is 21, is stabbed to death in front of her Houston, Texas home. The same day as Watts' last at Welltech, which was just right down the street from this woman's home. January 4th, 1982, Phyllis Tam was 27 and out running by herself early in the morning, and she was hung by her sports bra from a branch.
That sucks.
Ugh.
It was initially ruled a suicide, but her family didn't believe it, and after doing some more digging, Coral would later admit that he took it, twisted it around her neck, lifted her off the ground, and hung her by her shirt on the branch. Yeah, it's fucked. On January 16th, 1982, a young girl had a few too many drinks and fell asleep in a friend's car. When the friend returned, they said goodnight and got into their own vehicles, and she drove home. So she got out of her friend's car and got into hers. She'd slept it off well enough, I suppose. On her way, Watts followed her and blinded her with his high beams, making her drive into a curb and, I guess, fuck up her car. She couldn't drive away from it. He then walked up to her and punched her in the throat, killing her nearly instantly.
Fuck.
My God.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't even like somebody touching my fucking neck. I could just imagine somebody punching me right in my throat.
And it just crushed everything in there.
How painful, too. Ugh.
I think that's one of those ones, too, where you're just going like...
That's literally my biggest fear now,
Yeah.
having heard that. Ugh.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
He does that. Very shortly after he'd done this, a woman was changing her flat tire on the side of the freeway, and Watts did not drive up to her, but walked up to her and grabbed her by the head and slit her throat twice. She ran into traffic and was hit by a car, and a man picked her up. Watts thought that he had got his second kill of the day. Question number 12. How long did he wait between these attacks? They're technically in the same day. This is just open. It could be minutes, could be hours. Tell me how long you waited between those two attacks on the same day. Okay, Bree says 38 minutes. Lindsay says 45 minutes. And Bree's going to get the points because the attacks were separated by a mere 15 minutes.
God damn it.
Still plenty of time. Don't even worry, Lindsay. Still plenty of time. I mean, score points for sure. Don't not worry, but like... So 15 minutes from killing the first woman, he thought that he had killed his second, but did not. January 18th, 1982, Margaret Fossey, who was 25, is strangled to death in her home in Houston. On January 29th of 82, a 19-year-old girl was attacked outside of her apartment. She woke up in a hospital bed and realized that she had been stabbed 3 times. January 30th.
Just realized.
Yeah. Well, that was her first time gaining consciousness.
I'd rather it be that way.
Yeah.
Feel it the whole time.
On January 30th of 82, another 19-year-old girl was attacked as she got out of her car while going home. Luckily, a person on the second floor heard what was going on and came out and yelled, which made Watts take off. So apparently he's pretty, like, you could spook him pretty quick, it seems like. If you just kind of can get a noise out, he's like, nope. Luckily, Johnson would survive the attack. She was shown a photographic lineup and picked out a man named Mosley, although the MO is very similar to Coral Watts. So she did not pick out Coral Watts in a lineup, but a different man. On February 7th, 1982, very early in the morning, Elena Samander, who was 20, was going to visit a friend after she had been out late. There was someone parked next to the dumpster who was sleeping in his car. He saw a black man come up to a young woman and drag her behind the dumpster. This guy was, I think, also sleeping off a long night and just thought he was like dreaming. You know, it didn't seem very real to him. So the guy kind of like, I think he just forgot, or he was just too lazy to do something, and that's his excuse now. But for whatever reason, he didn't decide that he was going to need to investigate. So he went back to sleep. He said later that he would hear a moan and a thud as if something had been thrown into the dumpster. A trash man came later that morning to get the dumpster and started to compact it when he noticed a human leg, stopped the machine, and called the police. It's fucking Chucky 3.
I was thinking Fargo.
Oh, Fargo.
I love that movie.
On March 19th, 1982, Coral Watts moved out of his apartment and into a new one. He listed Sheila Watts as his wife and resident and listed her daughter as a resident also. Not anymore. March 20th, 1982, a young girl got into a fight with her dad and left home and would never return home again. She was last seen hitchhiking on Interstate 10, which is the same road Watts would travel on the daily. March 27th, 1982, another young girl went running early in the morning by herself. She was attacked and stabbed 17 times in the chest. Later, another girl was walking on the sidewalk and a man stopped his car and started walking towards her and lunged at her. He reached at her and grabbed, but he lost grip because his hands were covered in too much blood to keep a hold of her. So she slipped through and ran for help. The only thing that saved her life was that he had just stabbed someone else 17 times and had blood all over his hands. So she was able to slip his grip.
Have you guys ever seen what stab wounds look like? No. I just want to, okay.
Yes.
So when we went to the Museum of Death a few weeks ago, they have like crime scene photos up in there. Mm-hmm. And it was the first time I had ever seen like stab wounds on a victim. And so every time you talk about that, that's all I can see. And it is fucking, it's like, it's gruesome, but it's not gruesome. Like when you look at the pictures, I'm like, I gotta stare at the photo for like a minute to be like,
they're just
what
like kind of like lines, yeah.
Especially if you're seeing like a post-autopsy photo where they've been cleaned up.
Yeah.
It's like the most bizarre and creepy and disturbing looking thing. Like
the Charles Manson, like the Sharon Tate crime
Yeah.
scene. Those photos.
I couldn't
are
even
pretty-
look at those, dude.
Yeah,
in there,
those are
I was like, nope.
pretty graphic.
I
even
saw
after
like a
they're cleaned
glimpse
up.
of one, and I was like, not even going in that section.
Yeah,
Like,
that's-
nope.
Yeah. So, yes, April 15th, 1982, Yolanda Garcia, who was 22, left work to go home and never made it there. She was found stabbed 4 times. She had been receiving phone calls for about a month from a mysterious male, and her coworkers thought that she was having an affair. Coral Watts had been tied to this crime as well. April 16th of 82, Carrie Jefferson, who's 32, was going home, and as she reached for her keys, Watts grabbed her and dragged her through the front yard, disturbing grass on the way. He threw her in the trunk and drove her car off. Yay. April 25th, 1982, Susan Searles, who is 25, is found strangled to death in the parking lot of her apartment. May 23rd of 82, Michelle Madday is 20, and she is found drowned. These are all like, I want to say they're within 5 miles of Coral Watts' location, like almost every time, the way you see it on a map. On May 23rd, Watts attacked Lori Lister and Melinda Aguilar and was finally captured. Lister was coming home one morning in her apartment complex when she was attacked from behind by a man who kept asking her which apartment she lived in. It was like courtyard-like. She had to go into like a courtyard. As she went to her stairs, she got like drugged from behind. He grabbed her with like a knife. Tell me your apartment. Tell me your apartment. She has a roommate up there that she knows, but she doesn't want to die. So she says the apartment number, and he just like tightens the grip until she knocks out. Takes the keys and goes upstairs. I think he was going upstairs to open the apartment and prep it. Well, as soon as he gets the keys in the door, Lori Lister's roommate, Melinda Aguilar, opens it, like thinking she's opening it for a roommate. And apparently they lock eyes for like a good 10 seconds, she said that like all she could see was evil in his eyes. And he charges in, gets his arm around her throat, knife to her neck, takes her into a bedroom and ties her up with a wire hanger. He goes back downstairs because remember, it's like 6 a.m. Nobody's really up and about quite yet. He goes down and picks up Lori Lister, who's still unconscious at the base of the stairs, and he just drags her up the stairs. And Melinda mentions how she can hear this, the whole like hear her friend being dragged up the stairs. So when he brings her inside, he brings her into the bathroom and starts a bath. And he comes in and he checks on Melinda a couple times in between this while the bath is filling up. So he's clearly like he's filling the bath up so he can drown Lori Lister, and who knows what he's gonna do to Melinda Aguilar.
So is he killing these women like just to kill them? He does nothing with them once they're dead.
Or before they're dead, really.
So it's just like a process killer type thing.
Yeah.
Like he just enjoys the killing part of it.
I think so.
And then doesn't really give a fuck once they're dead.
Yeah.
And there's some rage to it too. He's fucking.
For sure there is. There's some serious hatred for women
Yeah.
behind all of this. So he's filling the bathtub up, and Melinda Aguilar says that he's doing something very weird while he's waiting for the bath to fill up. Question number 13. What was it? Was he talking to himself? Pacing around the apartment? Did he raid their fridge? Or did he dance giddily like a child? Talk to himself, pace around the apartment, raid their fridge, or dance giddily like a child. He's so giddy. Okay. Bree says he raided the fridge. Lindsay said that he was talking to himself. But you guys, he was doing the excited dance.
What?
She said that he was going like...
Because he had
I had
two
some
of
cousins
them?
that used to do that when they played video games. Like, play
Really?
video games and they'd be like,
Yeah, that's. She said like the bathtub's filling up, and Lori Lister's at his feet, and she's like kind of peeking in, trying to like see what's happening, and he's just like in there going, like he's stoked for what's happening. So Aguilar recalls that he was so excited, dancing like a little kid who is excited about something. Aguilar knew that she had to act fast, and as soon as he saw that he was focused mainly on Lori Lister and got her into the bathtub, she runs over with her hands behind her back, locks the bedroom door, and goes to, luckily she had a sliding glass door with a balcony. It's on the second floor, and her hands are tied up. So she's got to jump off the fucking balcony with her hands tied behind her back. She does. I guess she like flipped over and ends up landing on her knees. So she lucked out hard there, I think. She just takes off running, looking for the first person she can see. There's like a woman up on a balcony having her morning coffee. Melinda Aguilar just says, I need help. Like, you have to help me. Like, look, she's like in her underwear. So police are coming, and Coral hears the sirens and starts to take off, and police get him at the base of this. Like, he doesn't even get out of the apartment complex. He waited way too long to try to make a run. At the same time, a neighbor who knew what was happening because of like the commotion going on runs into the apartment and pulls Lori out of the bathtub and resuscitates her. So she was underwater for several minutes.
God.
When they go out and they take him into custody, they realize who he is. The police went to visit Sheila Williams and asked to search the house, but Williams demanded a warrant. She's sticking up for her man. When they went back the next day with said warrant, Sheila Williams had cleared everything out of the place. There was nothing left, and it was an empty apartment. So she worked quick. August 11th, 1982, Emily Elizabeth Lacroix, who was 14, is stabbed to death near Walker County. On May 26th, 1982, Watts met attorney named Caggins and an attorney named Bernie at the Harris County Jail. Sheila decides that she's going to hire Caggins to represent her husband because she felt he was more professional. On June of 82, Judge Douglas Shaver presided over Watts' hearings. Judge Shaver wanted Watts to have a psychiatric evaluation, and so he was sent to Rusk State Hospital for mentally ill people. On June 15th, Watts was sent to the Skyview Maximum Security Unit of the hospital to get x-ray, sickle cell tests, blood and urine tests, and they all came back fine. His psychological examination had a clinical interview, staff observations, Winchler Adult Intelligence Scale, a projective human figure drawing test, Bender Visual Motor Gestalt test, and sentence completion blank, and competency to stand trial questionnaire. Every fucking
was
test.
assessed.
Question number 14. You already know what else they did. They tested that motherfucking IQ. What was his IQ? Question number 14. Coral Watts tested IQ.
What are can we have like the ranges numbers?
Well, it was like 120 is like pretty high average. And then, I think so.
Below
100
50
is like
is
average.
I think 50 is the lowest. Like,
yeah. I work.
90 to 110 is normal or average intelligence. 110 to 120 is superior. 120 to 140 is very superior. 140 and over is genius or near genius.
50 is.
Okay, you got 18? I got 18. Okay.
Why are we so close every time?
Bree says 87. Lindsay says 91. Coral Watts' IQ score when tested at the Skyview Maximum Security Unit, 68. Bree gets 250 more points.
God damn it.
Yeah, he didn't do very well on this test now, did he? So Bree's at 1750. Lindsay's at 750.
I came for blood.
But remember, this is exactly where Paul was sitting. You were up by a smooth G bar or whatever, 750.
I'm just happy I'm
and you
answering questions right.
Yep, there you
I
go.
just have to be proud that I'm getting.
You guys are also
right.
answering questions very like.
We're very close.
Yeah. Same but different. So yeah, it was 68.
Like one apart last time. I guess like a
like every
96
time.
and she gets 97.
Under Texas law, although he is competent to stand trial and not crazy in any way, he is considered mentally retarded for 1982 standards in Texas. I think a 68 would probably qualify you really.
I think anything right now it's on 50 and under is classified as.
So Texas at this point, I think it was 70 and under. And
You
he
need
scored
some
a
help
68.
when you're in the 60s, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying
For sure.
like Forrest Gump.
He did some pretty great things.
He's right here.
I'm saying he's 60.
Your mama sure cares about your schooling, boy. July 9th, 1982, Harriet Samander, who is a mother of the other Samander woman who was killed. I wish I had taken her names back there. Anyway, she's the mother of a daughter who was just kind of following throughout this case. She was trying to find answers herself. She got a hold of information of 40 unsolved murders and some confidential police reports. So this bitch hard. Like, she's like, oh, you're going to kill my daughter? Well,
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and fucking dedicate my life to trying to fucking bring you down. On July
love
12th
that.
of 1982, Dr. Sherman went in to evaluate Coral Watts, and his IQ score had improved to 75. On August 2nd, 1982, Coral Watts agreed to plead guilty to aggravated burglary and attempted murder of Lister and Aguilar in exchange for information about some of his murder victims. The List-Aguilar case, during his trial, the water was considered to be a deadly weapon to charge him with the assault and attempted murder. So it was like unprecedented at the time, I guess, that they made a bathtub full of water a deadly weapon.
It technically is.
I mean, throw a
Technically
hair
correct
dryer.
is best
I
correct.
mean,
Yeah.
easy way to go.
On August 9th of 82, Coral Watts begins to confess, and it lasts over 28 hours. On August 10th, Watts said that he was glad they caught him because he would kill again if he was free. When asked how many people he had killed, the detective asked him, like, is it like enough on one hand? Is it two hands? And he said, there aren't enough hands or feet in this room. And including himself, there were 4 others, so there's 5 people. So Coral Watts
It's kind of like a
claiming
full
that
of shit answer.
Yeah, it very, very much could be. But I mean, we've kind of gone through the list of like crimes that they're like almost positive he did. And I think I've described to you guys something like in the 30s that attacks that weren't even like him being like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
There were ones that the police were already like, we're pretty sure he fucking did
Yeah.
this before they even had him. So yes, same thing with Henry Lee Lucas. There are crimes he committed. He did not kill 1,000 people,
Yeah,
like he says.
yeah.
He for sure was having sex with dead old ladies. Like, it's there. But he took that opportunity to get himself some smokes, get himself a better cell, maybe a cell by himself. Piece of shit. He's like one of the fucking worst, too. Watts led police to where he had buried the bodies of Cyril's after telling him that there wasn't enough fingers or toes in this room. As they were still undigging Cyril's body, Watts started telling police about Jefferson. On August 11th, 1982, Watts went before Judge Shaver and pleaded guilty to aggravated burglary, and Watts told police where Jefferson's body was. On August 12th, 1982, Watts told police where Lacroix's body was, and later Watts went for a drive with some police and led them to places where he had attacked some of the other women, just confirming that the crimes, that taking them and pretty much being like, tell us something that just someone wouldn't know about this. And they said the only thing he was shady on is what most of the women were wearing, but psychologists were like, yeah, he would totally have disassociated that. He wasn't looking at what they were wearing, because he would get all the details. Like, I stabbed him this many times. I held him like this. I was on this corner at this time, blah, blah, blah. They'd be like, oh, what did the woman look like? And he's like, I don't know.
Yeah, but what color were her shoes?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so they're pretty sure that all the crimes they suspected him of and all the ones that they're going around and, you know, he's pointing out to them that they're pretty positive that these are all him. On September 3rd of 82, a new date for the sentencing hearing will take place. People are being advised to wear bulletproof vests, and they had a metal detector at the front entrance and a bomb-sniffing dog go through the whole room. The judge found Watts guilty of committing burglary, and the burglary was committed with the intent to commit murder. Question number 15. How long would he be sentenced for the attacks on Lister and Aguilar? So your answer could be in years, because it's for sure years. He didn't get life. He didn't kill anybody. He just attempted to kill somebody. How long is he going to get?
for just those two?
Those 2 attacks. Remember, it was a burglary with intent to commit murder. Okay. Bree says 12 years. Lindsay says 15 years. Again, right in the wheelhouse. You guys have no faith in our justice system. He was sentenced to 60 years.
Well, because you said that.
I get the points, right?
Yeah, you get the points.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Lindsay's points. Also, you have reason to have no faith in our justice system. Just you fucking wait. Because you
Plenty.
thought it was over. It's close, but it's not quite. So he's sentenced to 60 years. September 13th, 1982, the body of Elizabeth Ann Montgomery is found stabbed to death in Harris County. They're still finding bodies that they believe he's responsible for while he's incarcerated. September 27th, 1982, Watts stayed in the Harris County Jail until he was moved to the Diagnostic Center of the Texas Department of Corrections. On February 20th, 1983, Watts tried to escape prison. He got his prison mates to act as a shield for him. He was caught and sent to solitary confinement for 15 days and lost 181 good time credit days. So essentially, when you're serving good time, you get days taken off at the end of your sentence. He was
good time credit days? It's not like a carnival or...
So he had 181 of those taken away from him. So these days that he had taken off of his sentence, they added them right back on top for his attempted escape. He was added to a higher security risk list after this. And on May 30th of 86, Watts fired for a writ of habeas corpus. So this guy is doing everything he fucking can to get out of this. Are you guys familiar with habeas corpus? Like, he thinks that he didn't get a fair trial. So he's putting a petition saying, oh, that trial wasn't fair. I'm going to for sure need a new one. July 17th of 87, Watts filed for another writ of habeas corpus after the first one was denied. March 1st, 1989, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals decided that it wasn't the intention of the attorney to have the trial judge enter an affirmative finding in the judgment. So there's a loophole in his plea deal. Essentially, the way they set it up and then the way they finished out the crime and not giving him enough notice about using water as a deadly weapon sets up this loophole that both he and the prosecuting attorneys miss, his attorneys and the prosecuting attorneys miss, that he would later find. Essentially saying that he's going to get a bunch of these days taken off. Like, at one point, I'll get to it, but I think he's like earning a day or 3 days off every good day he's serving.
Wow.
Yeah. So he's filing for all these writs of habeas corpus. On January 15th, 1990, he has his first parole hearing. So he's only been in for 8 years at this point, and he's up for parole. His request for parole is denied, and his next parole hearing would be in 1993. In September of 93, he's denied parole again. In October of 96, he's denied once more. In November of 99, he is denied for the fourth time. On November 7th, 2002, his fifth parole hearing, for which he was denied once more. Watts was scheduled for release on May 5th, 2006, because of ever since his initial stunt of being in trouble, he's been nothing but a model prisoner, as well as at that point of finding the loophole both the prosecution and the defense missed. He was earning, that's what it was, 3 days off with each 1 day of good behavior.
That's fucking bullshit, dude.
So on January 13th, 2004, police announced that they're going to try to charge Coral Watts with the murder of Gloria Steele in an attempt to keep him in prison because he is about to be the first serial killer ever in the United States that is going to be released from prison. May 6, 2004, Governor Perry signed extradition papers to have him extradited to Michigan once he's released because they want to charge him for some murders there. April 14th, 2004, Watts went to his extradition hearing, and on April 22nd, he is transferred and completed after completing cancer treatments. He's ready to stand trial in Michigan.
Let him die of cancer.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I'm miffed by that too. My next line says, yes, he had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and received his treatments on the dime of the taxpayers. May 20th, 2004, Judge
Obama.
Judge Longo put a gag order on all legal parties that were involved in the murder case. November 8th, 2004, Watts gets a visitor from one of his victim's family members while in prison, and it affects him in no way. That's just the kind of guy he is. He's like, was that supposed to...
He's just a sociopath.
Yeah. Precisely.
Does it ever freak you out to think that, like, you know so many of these people in your real life? Do you ever, like, think of people that you know in real life and you're just like, that person is for sure textbook sociopath?
You're like, that's why they're so goddamn successful.
Well, not all of them.
No, definitely not all of them, but the ones that are.
I know a lot that are not.
On November 9th, the trial is going to begin for the murder of Helen Dutcher. Watts was uncomfortable listening to the attorney describe the murders. They said that his shoulder twitched and his face involuntarily jerked. So he's finally like showing some type of emotion. I'm not sure exactly what it is, though. So November 9th, that's when the trial begins. He's uncomfortable hearing the murders. You committed them, douchebag. On November 10th, it's the second day of the trial. Joseph Foy is brought in. Do you remember this guy? He's the one who witnessed this fucking murder. Yes, he was pissed off because these police officers went on, they got on the news and like, we need anybody with any information, blah, blah, blah. He's like, you motherfuckers told me to put this to bed and now you need my help. He gave it to them. He wasn't so
Yeah.
There's like a lot of like serial murderers out there that were aided by poor police work.
Oh yeah.
So Joseph Foy is going to get his day in court.
Good for him.
Yep. The attorney general calls out anybody who knew anything. He got in there. Even though Foy had been ignored and pretty much told to go away, he called in his information, was able to help. On the third day of trial, a sketch artist took the stand. The sketch artist that took it from Joseph Foy. Both Foy and the sketch artist positively identify Coral Watts. The defense tried to pick apart Foy, and everybody was so impressed with like how good of a witness he was. Like, trust me, after 25 years, this guy's face is burned into my fucking mind because I knew that he had just killed somebody and there was nothing I could do about it. So like, it's testimony you can watch. He's fucking pro. It was badass. This guy was he was on it. Also during this, they're going to have like women that he slit their throat and they survived, and women that he attacked and they survived. They're all going to testify.
Badass.
Yeah. So on the next day, so actually that's 2 days later, 6th day of trial, the district attorney Gregart says that they're going to bring a murder charge against Watts for the killing of Steele. So now he's going to be charged with another second murder. The second juror, a male juror, was kicked off for going to the crime scene to do his own investigation. Yes, the juror was like, I need to go and check this place out, and went to the crime scene. You're not allowed to fucking do that. On November 17th, the same day, the jurors began deliberating in Watts' fate. On the next day, he is found guilty of the first-degree murder of Helen Dutcher. On December 7th, less than a month later, he is sentenced to life in prison in the state of Michigan. On July 25th, 2007, they got all of the shit together, and Gloria Steele's trial is going to take place. July 25th, the trial begins. July 26th, the closing arguments conclude. Two trial days for this. And on July 27th of 2007, the jury returns a guilty verdict in the stabbing death of Gloria Steele. Sentencing will be set in October. Question number 16. In what year will Coral Watts die? This is the last
Stab
one.
it?
Yeah, Lindsay, you need it. You need the stab, and that'll tie it. So if you can stab this and get it, and then you win this, you can walk away with a victory today. So you really got it. You really got to get this. Bree, you're looking pretty good over there.
When was the last sentencing?
So this is July of 2007 was when he was charged.
God damn it, dude.
What?
Bree says 2011. Lindsay says 2012.
Fuck you.
Coral Watts would not even make it to his sentencing. He would die 2 months later due to his pancreatic cancer in the year 2007. So he was convicted of the last two murders. He was never sentenced for his second one. He died of cancer before he even got charged. That's Coral Watts, you guys. You've been here for like 4 hours, longer, 5 hours.
Still got drunk, everyone. Woo!
Lindsay still got drunk. Bree gets her first victory.
My redemption.
Greg, let's show you some drawings here. Anyway, maybe get someone some extra points. Maybe stretch out.
It's worth 2,000 points each. So.
Okay, Greg. Here is the first drawing. Is this up? Right? Is this up? Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
See,
wait.
I appreciate the use of colors.
Okay, sorry.
It does.
No, it's this way.
Oh, well, that changes everything. I like it.
Okay, here comes drawing number 2. Does the direction matter?
Yeah, dude, the holes are on the bottom.
Okay.
Well, now there you go. I don't know. The first one actually had like a river or a trail of a comet, but they're both really good. I got to go with number 1, but they're both really good.
All right, there's some additional points for Bree before we end the night here. Congratulations on your victory.
I'm very, very, very happy right now.
Lindsay, you fell below 500, but you guys got another episode coming up in like May.
You gotta take me somewhere and buy me a fucking drink right now.
I can barely stay awake right now. It's so past my bedtime.
You owe me this.
You owe me this. You better fucking stay awake and drink with me.
I don't recall the past 2 times of me losing, of me getting awarded anything.
Oh yeah, that's right, Bree. You won a book tonight. I got some prizes. That's right. So I
Oh, I forgot about that. Good job.
there's a book. What do we got here? We got The World's Worst Criminals, an A to Z of Evil Men and Women. There you go.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, a little book. There you go.
This won't scare Chris at all.
Perfect. Chris can
Yes,
thumb
sir.
through that. Oh, here, Lindsay, I have a consolation prize for you.
Chris, who's like the nicest guy in the world.
This is for Lindsay. This is called The Killing of Tupac Shakur.
Oh, that's so exciting.
I got a stack of used books as consolation prize. So I planned to
Hell
give some
yeah.
good prizes for winners, and then I got a bunch of like they're true crime and shit, but they were
I'll take
like
a used
I
book.
like
yeah,
and
they're
a
like
book.
they're like maybe you guys can trade when you're done.
Yeah.
So yeah. There you go.
Right
Everybody
there.
got some prizes today. This is feeling pretty good, actually.
Hell
People
yeah.
getting prizes. So thanks to our Patreon subscribers for that. Yeah, man. I don't know. Good episode. It's long. I don't know how long it's going to be for you guys by the time it is done. But thank you guys for coming. We really appreciate it. Greg, anything at the end there you'd like to share with the world?
The CIA went to Mars in 1984.
Fact.
100%. That's pretty much all I got. At Hella Greg on all your favorite social medias, and I guess that's it.
Yeah. You make sure you guys rate us on a bunch of stuff. You can find us all the social medias as well. Google our name. You will find us. Super Network is making some moves, so look for some other shit coming up here before 2019 is over, hopefully. And, keep listening. Keep doing the damn thing. Anything, ladies, you would like to share before we get out of here?
Follow me on Instagram at Callaway Hair Co.
Bree.babes_ on
Yeah.
Instagram.
Follow them.
We don't have other social
it.
media.
Not at all.
Just that.
But if you do, sink your shit. Thank you, everybody, for listening to episode 82 of the Serial Chillers podcast. Don't talk to strangers.
This has been another presentation from Super Network.